Welcome, everyone. As you can see, we are in our baseball regalia this evening. Um, his a bit more obvious than mine, because for mine, you have to know what the Minnesota Twins City Connect uniforms look like. And I do think they look fine, if I say so myself. Currently, we are trying to avenge Mr. Ethan here because his poor Cardinals lost 11-0 to the Cubs last time they played.
Yes,
But
they
we are
did.
winning against the Cubs right now, so that's at least good. How have the Cardinals been
Do
lately?
me a favor and beat them senselessly. Ah,
We shall try our best.
the Cardinals are an interesting team, particularly this year, because they're kind of off and on as far as how well they do.
Okay. Did they have a good spurt to start the year and then back and forth a bunch, or like how has it been?
Well, I know early this season they had some really, really bad series. Their first game in Boston back in like April or late March was just atrocious.
Well, I could say I hope that they, well, I hope they make a good comeback for your sake
But we're
in terms
currently
of where they're
third
at
in
in the
the
standings.
division.
Same as us.
We're behind. We're trailing Milwaukee by 3 games.
Well, do me a favor and crush Milwaukee. They're not a divisional rival of ours, but they are a state rival of ours because, Minnesota
Because
and
Minnesota
Wisconsin.
and Wisconsin.
Yep. And the only two Twins games I've attended in the past couple years have both been games when we've been hosting the Brewers. And because of the geography, it's kind of annoying how many cheers the Brewers get in our stadium, just because a bunch of fans will make the trip. And we're pretty close to Wisconsin, so I mean it's reasonable that they would make the drive.
Try going to a Cardinals game when the Cubs are in town.
Is it that bad? Do they ship a bunch of people down?
Yeah, Chicago's only like a 4.5 hour drive from St. Louis.
This is reasonable then.
The game that Genevieve and I went to for our anniversary was against the Blue Jays, and close to half the stadium was Blue Jays fans.
How? I don't get that. That's no 4-hour drive.
Now, in my area, we might be getting a lot more Blue Jays support shortly because they got a new guy who's from Loose Creek, which is a town about 20 miles from here.
Okay. So there's conflict then.
I'm pretty sure he's a good Catholic boy too, so
Okay.
that's part of why the losses didn't hurt so much.
Hmm.
Also, the fact that we had 3 2-run homers in that game. But yeah, they swept us in that series.
Ouch. So what's next time? Especially in baseball. There's a lot of games, so.
At least the fans were from Canada, so they were at least kind of nice.
Okay. There
Although
is
this
that.
August the Yankees are going to be in town,
Do crush them as well.
and I'm they're in a slump right now. My father-in-law's not too happy.
Oh, good. Crush them even more. Make them suffer as much as you can. The only team that deserves it more is the Dodgers.
Well, yes, the Dodgers always deserve to be crushed. The Dodgers have deserved to be crushed in the past like 20 seasons.
Someone's just got to do it. Someone's just got to do it.
Although I do like Aaron Judge.
That's fair. I don't really have anything against
He's
him
an
either.
excellent
Apart
player.
from he's a Yankee.
He's at this point like number 4 all time.
In like home runs or?
Well, he's top of the league in batting average because it's like a 364 or something.
Okay.
That's for this season. He's 4th in all of baseball history for something. I don't quite remember what it was.
Okay. It's probably not batting average, so it makes sense that it's home runs because I think he has. I saw the stat yesterday, or heard it rather, that he has like 364. That's the number in my head. So I was being asked the question, like, can he get to
Probably.
600 with how old he is and how much time he has left? And
He's not that old.
maybe. He's over 30, I think, now.
Is he?
I want to say so. Or if he's not, he's late 20s.
So we were over at my in-laws this past weekend, Actually, we were over there for the 4th of July. And on the 4th of July, the Yankees were playing the Mets in Queens.
Okay.
So, and we see that, and Amazon was carrying the game, so we were able to watch that over there. So I figured, what do you know? My father-in-law is a Yankees fan, and my mother-in-law is a Mets fan. So we'll see how well this goes.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Apparently, that was like the one thing that my mother-in-law's mother could not get past about my father-in-law was that he was a Yankees fan.
Such is the nature of sports, right?
And my father-in-law was like, "Well, at least she's not a Red Sox fan. That would be even worse."
That would be worse, yeah.
Because
Both would be terrible, but
I think the Yankees and the Red Sox is probably the most vicious rivalry in all of baseball.
I would agree. And the only one that I don't know baseball super well, or all that well, perhaps. But the only rivalry I know of that could perhaps compete with it, in my limited knowledge again, is the Cubs and Cardinals. So, but I'd let you be the expert on which is worse.
Yeah. So the Cubs and Cardinals rivalry is funny. For the longest time, every year when the Cardinals are just having a great year, so there have been some years where the only team we actually were horrible against was the Cubs. Even when the Cubs were having a bad year.
It just makes it even worse.
Which is just like, it just hurts so badly. But I at least was a little bit happy when they got their first World Series win in like 100 years. Was that 2016?
Yeah.
I think that was our freshman year at college.
It was. Yeah, that's why I remember. So I remember
that because there was the one guy, because Dan Kazmarek was on my floor, the one guy in the entire school from Chicago, and he didn't stop smiling for like a week.
You and I thought of him at the same time.
I went to Rome with him, so I got to know him a little bit better. He's a great guy.
Sure.
It's just like yeah, I get it. And like his entire door was just taken up with Cubs stuff. Like, yeah, I get it.
What a guy. I didn't know him that well, but
he's a good guy.
But that is my impression of him.
Chicago is kind of one of those towns where it's like you're not accepted there unless you accept either the Cubs or the Bears or the White Sox or the Bulls.
Or at least Pope Leo the 14th.
Or at least the Pope now.
At least the Pope. We should probably get going, but you can start with this. What got you back into baseball after your 10-year hiatus?
Well, one Saturday I was just trying to think of something to do. And I was like, well, I want to do something to relax, but I don't just want to, turn my brain into mush watching television for an entire afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned on the Cardinal game. Remember who they were playing. And this was near the end of the last season. And I sat there and I listened to the Cardinal game, and I did a crossword puzzle. And I realized that being an old man and listening to a baseball game on the radio while doing a crossword puzzle was one of the most peaceful experiences I've ever had. Even with 2 kids in the house. 2 kids who were both at that point under 3.
And with being only 27 years old yourself.
Yeah.
I can see why that would be peaceful, though. Like, just chill and relaxing. And
it is great. And there's something about listening to a baseball game on the radio. It's just very calming.
It seems to me like the type of activity that is proper to do in a world that moves too fast.
I think the reason that I was excited to get back into it when the season started up again, and why I was excited to, actually be involved in it again, was because baseball is just normal. It's just a normal thing to like and to enjoy. And it's particularly normal for American society.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
And I have long been of the opinion that baseball is just the greatest sport ever invented. And I have my reasons for that.
which we will save for later when we
I know
go.
many of you people up where you are think that hockey is the greatest sport ever invented, but
I won't spoil too much for my analysis of what the greatest sport is, other than it's not hockey.
well, I know you don't think it's basketball.
I say no more.
I
I say no more.
will say basketball is better soccer, and no one can prove me wrong.
Fair enough. I'll also say this: I'm wearing a baseball hat for a reason.
I know it's just so normal to want to go to a baseball game, to want to enjoy a baseball game, and this anniversary that we just had. It's the first baseball game that I've been to in probably maybe 20 years. And the only thing that I remember about that game was that my brother threw up on the bus ride home. So, but now I could actually enjoy the game, and I could go and I could partake in the baseball culture, and it's just so there's something about when you go to a baseball game, just approaching the stadium, and Busch Stadium in particular, because there's a lot of really wonderful things that Busch Stadium has outside their gift shop.
Mm-hmm.
Statues of all of our Hall of Famers.
Okay.
Like we got Ozzie Smith, we got Stan Musial, we got Bob Gibson, we got all those guys. And there is by the first base entrance. I think it's by the first base entrance, there is a massive memorial and a massive statue of Stan Musial with his backpack. And it says, if I remember correct, Stan Musial, baseball's greatest champion, baseball's most noble knight.
Okay. So educate me as someone who's never heard of this noble knight. How did he get that name? What did he do?
Again, that's something I'd have to look a lot more into, but I know that, again, because I'm just recently in this season getting back into it, I'd have to look a lot further into the history of the Cardinals. But I know he was a very generous man. He was a very good man. And I have never heard an ill word spoken against him, even by Cubs fans.
That does count for praise.
And the same thing goes for guys like, Bob Gibson and Ozzie Smith and a lot of our other guys. Is that typically we just have really, really good guys that play for us and have played for us.
This is good then. I can't say I know enough about the Twins to make a similar analysis of them. I don't know of any bad people the Twins has had on their roster. I could very well be wrong and proven wrong in the comments about that, but yeah, baseball wasn't one of the sports that I watched a ton growing up. I went to games as a kid. I remember not having a long enough attention span early on, and having to leave one or two games early. And this is back when back when we weren't playing at Target Field yet. We were playing in the Metrodome. So I remember that long. I remember some of those experiences. I remember the upside down baseball hat cups that you'd get ice cream in.
We get those too.
Makes sense.
They're wonderful.
But baseball does have a good atmosphere to it. And like I said earlier, I've gotten a chance to go to a couple games in the past couple years. And even though we've lost both games and have not played particularly well in either of those games, it still has on the whole been a good time.
Yeah, when you're actually at a game, it's not hard to feel. It's hard to feel bad when you leave a stadium. When you've lost a game. I mean, if you get completely annihilated, like the Cubs beating you 11-0, when you're like, wow, we have to get 3 grand slams to be able to win the game. and there's no way to strategize that.
Nope. That shows the type of fan you are, though. Like, you're holding on to hope at that point, down 11-0, and mapping out how to do it.
Because there's a lot of games, a lot of games that I listen to on the radio when the Cardinals are not doing very well. I remember one. It was like 9-2 in the seventh inning, and I'm visibly in pain. And my wife is like, "Then turn it off." And I'm like, "But it's baseball. Anything can happen. It's baseball."
Yep.
Because if you're down if you're down with that ratio in like a football game in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, that game is over.
Yep.
Just the likelihood of being able to do that because of how the game works. Same thing with a basketball game. And then how your point increments stack up. And the only other one that I could see, the only other sport that I could see kind of being like that, where like, no, it's anything can happen, potentially hockey.
Yes.
But
Yes,
baseball,
indeed.
I think, there's a lot of elements of skill, but there's also a lot of elements of chance and how it happens. You can be a great batter and have a great pitcher. You still can't really control where you hit the ball, like where the ball makes contact with the bat. It's at least extremely difficult to do, and even then, the kind of pitch that has just been thrown with whatever spin is on the ball will also affect how the ball flies.
Mm-hmm.
So a phrase that I hear quite frequently is that home runs aren't hit, they're thrown.
Yeah, like, don't throw it over the middle of the plate. And as soon as he does, they'll be waiting for it.
Yeah. But even then, they're starting to hit home runs now on the edge of the strike zone.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've seen home runs come out of the bottom corner of the strike zone, which is just insane.
It almost becomes golf at that point, if it's low and inside like that. But
yeah, especially when your batter is 6'2". We got a guy that's over 6'2". His parents, I think they're Norwegian immigrants, Norwegian or Swedish immigrants.
So hold there for a second. 6'2" is not that tall for an athlete. Is that tall for a baseball player?
Yeah. It gets brought up every time. Around 6 foot is kind of an average, but he's enough above the average that I think he's 6'2". He might be even taller. Lars Nootbaar is his name.
Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah, I told you his parents are Scandinavian.
I wouldn't have even guessed that nationality based off of the last name, to be perfectly honest.
Nootbaar.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
The double A, though.
So look at the Cardinals. Still trying to figure out how to... Oh, there we go. Roster. After I get past the 7,000 pitchers that we have. Oh, he's just 6'1".
Well, it proves your point that baseball players must be short, on average, if his height gets brought up and he's 6'1".
Yeah, all of our other guys. Nolan Gorman is 6 foot even. Wilson Contreras is also 6'1". Actually, Arenado is the tallest guy on the team. Nolan Arenado is 6'2". Nope, never mind. Matt Svanson, 6'5". Yeah, we got a pitcher that's 6'5".
That makes sense.
Also makes sense. Those long arms, you can get a lot of power behind that ball. It's a lot of leverage.
Oh, yeah. Height would definitely be an advantage for a pitcher. I think the tallest pitcher that the Twins have is Bailey Ober.
That would be why all but one of our pitchers are over 6 feet tall.
Makes sense. I want to go back to something you said earlier about the pain that you felt when the Cardinals were losing and not wanting to turn it off because it's baseball. Mm-hmm. And I know that feeling very well as a Vikings fan because being a Vikings
You know
fan,
that feeling well as a fan of any Minnesota sports team.
yes. Being up from Minnesota and being a sports fan is just guaranteed 5 to 10 years off of purgatory. All you just have to do is be a loyal fan. It's really all you have to do. It is
Whereas
enough
being a
suffering.
fan of any Chicago or New York team is a guaranteed 5 to 10 years on to purgatory.
Yes.
This is just stated fact.
You can thank Michael Jordan for that. But
The White Sox will get a pass since the Pope is a fan of theirs.
Yes. If you're a White Sox fan, then you're not getting 5 to 10 added.
They actually do get 5 to 10 off with, the typical White Sox performance.
Yes. Maybe less now because the Rockies are finding a way to one-up them this year.
I want to say those poor guys, but they're just doing so poorly.
They really are. I don't know what the record is now, but I know it was 9-50 at one point, and then they went on a 3-game winning streak, so they got it to 12-50. Such an achievement. But back to the point about the pain. It's still worth it, though. It's still worth it to cheer for a team. But I want to segue from that to ask you this. Why does society actually need sports? Why can it not just be, well, let me do anything else besides sports? And some people don't like them. Why can't we just read and study the great things of philosophy and work and make good food? And why can't it just be that?
Well, that's kind of all well and good, but in order to, I think, properly participate in your society, for one thing, people are allowed to like multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowed to be a huge fan of even all sports of any kind, and also be a massive nerd. Like, liking sports doesn't mean you have to be a jock. And
this is true.
Liking, I don't know, video games and tabletop RPGs and things, and just high fantasy things like that. That doesn't automatically just make you don't have to be a nerd at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to like multiple things. Me, I love the Cardinals. I always have. I always will. They're my team. I love the city of St. Louis, as much of a dung heap of a city as it is at the moment. My heart goes out to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the Cardinals are home. And even if I don't live in Missouri at some point, the Cardinals will be my home.
Mm-hmm. As it should be. I'll just leave that behind.
And like I said, participating in society means being conversant, at least conversant, in most aspects of society. And it doesn't just have to be with pop culture stuff. That can also be with sports. That can also be with politics. That can be with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I think over the past, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so, it became less in vogue to like sports and more in vogue to like typically nerdy things like comic books and anime and D&D and all that other sort of stuff. But because that crowd kind of started taking over, there's sort of been a falling away of people liking sports, which may not entirely be true. That's just what I see. I know that every sports stadium attendance is way down from what it was like 15 years ago.
That's interesting. I would believe that about baseball, because I've heard that about baseball, but I wouldn't have guessed that necessarily
I at least knew
about
it
other
about
sports.
baseball. I wasn't sure about the other sports. I knew it at least was true with baseball. I think it's also true with football. Mostly because I think people are people are mistrusting of football at this point, but we'll talk about football later on.
As we will. Oh no, so we need to be conversant in the things that a society enjoys, which includes a lot of things, but includes sports.
And even things that just build your culture and build the common language around you. So you should know who your local teams are. And it's part of your local loyalty, especially being being an American actually means that your loyalty comes to your state first before the federal government. I think people since the Civil War have kind of forgotten that.
That's how it was.
It's how it was. General Lee would not have called himself an American. He would have called himself a Virginian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Missourian before I am an American. My loyalty is to my home, and that's this state.
Nothing
And
wrong with
yours
that.
should be to Minnesota. All that the Union means is that the states can't go to war against each other.
Fair enough.
And we have a basic governing power in the federal government. But that's the politics conversation. This is about sports.
This is true. But also true.
Sports is also sort of a way to, I guess, let out some of that potential aggression that we could feel between states, at least in the U.S. It's like that with, it's even like that with sports leagues over in Europe. With the soccer leagues, they can let out a lot of tensions between each other in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
When their national teams go head to head.
I imagine that both there and here, it's a good way of expressing a rivalry with another place in a singular and focused way.
It's in a controlled and focused way.
Yeah. So rather than this shows my ignorance of soccer, but whatever parts of London are where Manchester City is based and where Arsenal is based, rather than compete in terms of like finances and how nice your home is and whatever else people would, why not have a competition? Why not put our identity as a place into a team, and now we'll have a friendly competition, or not so friendly, depending on where you're at, I guess. But
when you're in a stadium, you don't care how much the guy next to you makes, because you're all there supporting the home team.
Mm-hmm.
You root for the home team. That's what you do. You don't feel resentment because the thing that's there that unites you is your support for that home team.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the fans of the opposing team, you don't really care what they do for a living. All you care about is that they're fans of the opposing team. And at that point, you're still united to them
mm-hmm.
by your love of the sport and sportsmanship and fair play and just playing the game.
Exactly.
And just having a great time. Because that's the priority of sports.
Because someone could say competition is not, why be so competitive with each other? Aren't we supposed to not be jealous or stuff? But yet, no, it is good to compete properly. Not just against each other, but against ourselves. And sports is an outward way to see that and show your support for it, but also to demonstrate it. And to watch an example of it being demonstrated. So I can draw spiritual lessons from watching a great man at his sport play, or even a not so great player. Just as long as he is playing well to the best of his ability, there is an example there to be emulated and carried throughout life. And there's no sport where that's not true, or no good sport at least where that's not true.
So there's an Irish song called "The Fields of Glory." It's about soccer, and the chorus of the song is, "On the fields of glory, on the fields where boys become men.
Mm-hmm.
On the fields of glory, may the best team win in the end."
I like that.
It's a fantastic song, and everybody should go and listen to it and listen to the High Kings version because it's probably the best song, the best version of that song out there.
I will do that after we're done.
It's fantastic, and it sets up this whole, this very, very beautiful and epic story behind the game of soccer. Even though we're Americans and we're supposed to think soccer is dumb, but it sets up this fantastic and wonderful story behind soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And Listening to that song makes you just want to be in Ireland at a soccer game. It just makes you want to go and see a soccer game and be united with the people around you cheering from the stands and
Mhm.
wanting the better team to win.
One of the great lines from St. Paul is, "I have fought the good fight and finished the race." And so many activities that are worth doing in life, so many songs that are worth singing and listening to in life, um, so many occupations, and just all of the things that make up life, your vocation. Um, there's an echo of that line in them, and this also applies to sports. Um, I think that's all I really need to say about that. So it's self-evident.
Shall we leave the rest to Pope St. John the 23rd?
What did he have to say?
The value of sport.
Hmm.
The great value of sport lies in its particular effectiveness for the improvement of your spiritual powers, achieved through the external discipline with which you earnestly and continually train your bodies. We trust that you will never forget, beloved children, that the efforts you make are not an end in themselves. The body which serves you reflects in its agility and harmony of movement a ray of the beauty and almighty power of your Creator. It is only an instrument which you must keep under control and sensitive to the powerful influence of your soul. Your exercises and competitions, which are like pleasant interludes in the monotony of study and daily work, must serve to enhance the spiritual and immortal part of you. If they were to have a harmful effect, if in your athletic career you were to find not a safeguard but a danger for your souls, or an obstacle in the way of the practice of your religion, then you would have gone astray, like the cross-country runner who, because he did not follow the right course, could not win the race. Courage, then, dear children. Aim always at that goal to which we are called, the eternal life that must be won with good works and the practice of Christian virtues.
I mean, how can you argue?
You can't. He's the Pope.
This is true. Basically, don't do it in bad ways, but this is an example of how you train. This is an example of how you grow in holiness. Ever up and ever in.
Onward and upward once more onto the breach. Oh, wait, that's Shakespeare.
Secret Catholic, apparently.
That'll be another episode.
A story from my own life where that rings true. So, the sport I've played the most in life has been golf. And in recent years, I've transitioned more into disc golf for multiple reasons.
It's better
But
for
golf
your back.
is, it's cheaper.
That too.
But
the way I play, it's going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, cheaper and more accessible. But golf is still kind of a first love of mine when it comes to playing sports. And one of the things I love about golf is how much it epitomizes a spiritual life for the same reason. It really is a battle against yourself. And not just against yourself, but against a course that is full of complexity and varying weather conditions. You can play, and I've played at like 36 degrees, and I've played at close to 100. So you can play it in a wide variety of climates. You can play it in heavy wind, no wind. You can play it in pouring rain or on the nicest day you can find. And regardless of what the conditions are, it's always a challenge. But it's also that challenge against yourself. So, same is true for disc golf. Like, we've got 2 of the top 50 courses in the world within hour and 15 minutes from where I live. And the better of those 2, I still remember my best ever round. But I remember it not just for the fact that I shot a great score, but because I remember the amount of self-control that I had to have over my mind and my body and my emotions to accomplish that feat. Like, it would have been very easy to focus too much on the score, get too nervous, get too anxious, and get out of the flow that I was in. I really needed to lock in, and I managed to pull that off. And I celebrated pretty good afterwards. Because I had fought the good fight and finished the race. And there's been many, many times where I've screwed that up in one way or another. Just either towards the end of a round in golf or disc golf, or from the very beginning, like you just have the wrong attitude coming in, you're too competitive, and then it just, nope, bad day. But to me, that's one of the greatest things about sports, is conquering an insane challenge properly, with self-control, with talent, with hitting your shots or hitting your lines or whatever it is, depending on the sport. I just love that. Even if I fail 99% of the time, I still love it.
Well, and even just the dignity of finishing correctly. Like, I have played a total of 3 games of golf in my life, and 2 of them were with you.
Mhm.
And they've all turned out about the same. I shoot over 140 every time. Still, the feeling you get when that ball rolls into the hole. It's just like, yes, I have finished this hole.
Mhm.
And then when you get past the 18th hole, it's, yeah, I have finished.
And even if you suffered a lot, you're still up for more. Like, one of the best golf commercials I've ever seen was a Mercedes or BMW commercial, and it's 4 guys coming off the course, and one of them is cussing up a storm, or the TV rated version of cussing up a storm. I'll never play again. Throws his golf clubs in the car somewhere and gets in the driver's seat, sits down and relaxes, and just says, "Same time next week, boys." Which is the mark of a good sport.
Even as much as you hate yourself and you think you hate the game, and no matter how many clubs you've wrapped around trees,
Yep.
You're gonna go back.
You're gonna go back, because that's what we do. We go back and keep fighting. At what point does sports become something worthy of pursuing a career in? Obviously, there's talent. There's the question of the sport itself, but how did those all sync up?
Well, talent is a big thing, but you also have to love it. And you have to love it enough for it to actually be work. And, I have listened to a lot of older guys mostly, who remember the huge baseball strike in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not 100% certain. I don't really know what it was about. If you know more about it, then educate me. But
can't say I do, but something with collective bargaining, I imagine.
Something about that, about the players not getting paid enough. And a lot of guys saw that and then went, well, what's their annual salary? Oh, the annual salary is $3 million. And they think they're not getting enough. Well, I'm just not going to watch anymore. Because you make more in a year. You make more playing one game than I make in a year. So I'm just not going to watch the game anymore. Because you're whining about not making enough money. And that does not seem healthy. It just doesn't seem right. And especially like an offhanded comment that I heard a little while ago, like, oh, if only I could be paid, extraordinary amounts of money to stand on a hill and throw a ball. I could get into the nitty gritty, into the autistic detail of describing baseball, of why that's not an accurate description of why pitchers get paid so well.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think a lot of what that comes down to, is just plain jealousy. Like, I agree that maybe professional sports generate too much revenue on the whole.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be a serious dialing back. I think tickets probably shouldn't cost anywhere near as much as they do for pro games. But I'm not going to hold that against the players. They technically work for the league. Well, they work for their teams, and the teams work for the league. So they need to be getting paid at least a just share of the revenue that the league is generating, based on their skill and based on their contributions and based on the popularity of their team. Like a player that's not so great that plays for the Cardinals is probably still going to make more than a player on the same level that plays for, I don't know, the Rockies.
Well, and baseball is unique that there's no salary cap, and so the markets matter.
Yeah.
So it probably should be a share of the team's total revenue and not the league. But
There are probably better
same
ways
idea.
that it could be done.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't actually know how most professional athletes get paid, but the same logic follows for
Mhm.
football and for basketball and for hockey, how much they get paid.
Sure.
And like there is a lot of skill involved, and it's not like they do nothing in the off season. They're still training constantly,
Mhm.
and they're still like going to work. It is still a job for them, and it is still work for them. But like with any job, it's something that you have to love to be able to make money at it. And sports, I think, sports is one of the easiest things to kind of illustrate this with. Where, like, if you ask any professional athlete why he wanted to play sports professionally, I think at least 97 times out of 100, you're going to hear something along the lines of, I just love it.
Yeah, usually it's not for the
That's
money.
that's
So-
probably what you're going to hear from a baseball player, from a hockey player, from football players, and probably from basketball players too.
Mhm.
They do it because they love it. They just want to do it for however long they can. And, I'm not going to sit here and pass judgment on another man for how much money he makes, as long as if he's generous and he uses his money wisely
Mhm.
and doesn't, end up living in a gutter 3 years after he retired because he squandered everything, then just let him be paid what people are willing to pay him to throw the ball for.
Mhm.
So I don't hold anything against professional athletes of any kind, really. The ones that I might hold something against are the professional gamers. But that's like the one thing where I'm like, that's not a sport. It's there are mental and physical aspects to it. I used to work with a guy that had been a pro gamer for a while. And the things that he explained to me, I have more of an appreciation for it.
Mhm.
But I'm like, you're a 19-year-old kid sitting in a bucket chair with a controller in your hand. And you've got football players that are at high concussion risk and high risk of having their ribs broken. And
It's very different, yeah.
they actually have cerebral. Like football is cerebral too. It's not just a bunch of thugs trying to smash each other in the head over a ball. That's not even really a ball. I do agree with the Europeans on that. We should probably call it something different. But
American pigskin does not have the same ring, though. It just doesn't.
It sounds better than what the Europeans want to call it.
Which is?
Hand egg.
I haven't heard that before.
That's one that I heard. Actually, I heard that one from an African. Because the ball is shaped like an egg, and you throw it with your hands, so you should call it hand egg. That is more accurate than calling it football. At least in our football, we only use our feet. I'm like, okay, relax, father. That's...
Yeah. What does that make rugby, then? It was one of my first questions.
That's true. Rugby is rugby.
Yes. But the ball is kind of shaped like that, just bigger.
That's also kind of a dumb sport, in my opinion. I think American football is an improvement over rugby. Just like American baseball is a massive improvement over cricket.
I have great respect for rugby, honestly. Like the
I
physicality
do
and the
as well.
teamwork there is awesome.
I
But
do
they
as
do
well.
not.
That's also not something I would say in front of a rugby team because they are all at least a head taller than me and probably weigh twice as much as I do. So I'm not gonna. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, boys, you just go out in the field and smash each other in the head as much as you want.
Mhm. If you're looking for,
I'll stay here. It is funny. So the three biggest sports in the UK are soccer, cricket, and rugby. Now, if we take cricket out of that for a second, soccer, I as much as I appreciate it as a sport, and I really do, soccer is kind of a neat sport. There's just so much pathetic about soccer players. A lot of it is just a bunch of scrawny, pretty boys with fancy haircuts, kind of prancing along the field, trying to kick a ball into a net, is what it looks like to me.
Spoken
Mostly
like a true
because-
American.
And I'm not saying that about the Africans. I'm terrified of an African soccer player.
You just don't care about the Brits.
They're great. No, just the Europeans in general. With
All right.
all due respect to Messi. But, and there have been some truly great soccer players. I'm aware of this.
Mhm.
But it's like soccer, which over here has... So one of them is soccer, which over here has the reputation of, oh, soccer players are all, they're weak and they're crybabies, and, you barely touch them and they go and they crumple to the ground and start crying to
Mhm.
get the opponent. There's a strategy to that. You're trying to get somebody else knocked out.
It's pathetic.
Which, by the
though.
way, is lame. Just kick the ball into the goal and win honestly instead of trying to get other team players knocked out.
Mhm.
At least in American football, we earn our fouls.
If a foul is committed, you don't need to do that to emphasize it. So, I
Yeah.
would say that if there were two sports that I would look at to like be the epitome of physical health and endurance, I would pick soccer and rugby. Neither of them made it that far into my analysis of
Of what is the greatest
sport, which will come later. I'll just save some spoilers for then. But by the same token, like, this is an epitome of fitness and endurance. Like, they're working their butts off. Even if they look like pretty boys, they're running up and down the field. That's a serious workout. So why do you have to flop? Why does it happen so often?
Yeah, why can't you
Beyond
win, honestly?
Beyond the obvious reason for why flopping is bad, and that should not need any type of explanation, especially there. So,
Well, although what I was saying, I find it personally funny that soccer is the sport where it's supposedly just a bunch of scrawny, pretty boys with fancy hair running around and kicking a ball, and then you have rugby, which is a bunch of just massive, muscle-bound cavemen
mhm.
fighting over an egg.
Yep.
And just kicking the shit out of each other for however long is the duration of a rugby game. I think it's like, is it an hour and a half?
Might be.
Maybe. I think it might be. It's close to the same as a soccer game. I just find that funny, where it's like, there are no two sports more dichotomous than soccer and rugby.
After a fashion, yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there was even, like, you go over there and you get diehard rugby fans and diehard soccer fans in the same room. I wouldn't be surprised if they start arguing. I can see rugby players or rugby fans teasing the soccer fans about, well, at least our guys aren't afraid to pick up the ball with their hands, or stuff like that.
They've
Or
done
our guys
that.
aren't afraid of getting kicked in the shins, or
Soccer players have
or...
Soccer players have evolved to survive such discussions. Because if they get caught by the rugby player, they die. And if they run, then they're capable of playing in a soccer match.
Rugby
they can
players
run
are
away.
deceptively fast, though. They're enormous men, but they're deceptively fast.
I believe that.
It's like the guys that do the 100-yard dash at the Highland Games.
Where's the Highland
These
Games?
guys are huge. The Highland Games?
Mhm.
That's when a bunch of Scotsmen get together and be very strong and very tough and very hairy. So the hammer in the Olympics came from the Highland Games. The shot put came from the Highland Games. Where it's basically, hey, we're going to try and throw this rock as far as we possibly can. Tug of war is a Highland game sport. And it's incredibly intense when you watch the Scots do it.
You've reminded me of the Renaissance Festival we have here in Minnesota, because the only time I've ever gone, it was the weekend where they were doing the Highland Games. they were throwing very heavy steel or aluminum barrels.
I think barrel tossing is one. I don't know if it's called barrel tossing. My favorite is the caber toss, which is basically where you have a 250-pound man pick up a telephone pole and hurl it end over end.
Okay. So the javelin, but mega sized.
No, he picks it up by the end where it's like straight up and down, and then gets a running start and then hurls it, and it topples end over end, and then whoever gets it the farthest is the winner. And I personally think that needs to go in the Olympics.
What's the dimensions of that?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Roughly speaking,
They're long. It looks like a telephone pole. I want to say they're 12 to 15 feet long, or maybe longer. I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct me on that if I'm wrong, but
someone in the comments better know.
They're long and they're massively heavy. And watching a Scotsman do that makes me never want to insult the bagpipes ever. Because they can do that.
You insult the bagpipes, you will hear the bagpipes at your funeral.
You say something bad about the bagpipes. Wait, why do I suddenly hear Scotland the Brave? Oh, crap.
Yep. So, how does American sports differ in general, in your opinion? Like, what do we do that sets us apart from the rest of the world, which has decided that soccer and cricket and rugby, F1, spoiler alert for motorsports later, are like sports that they love? How did we get to a point where we came up with our version of football, where we came up with baseball, where we came up with...
I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but our version of football was actually invented in Canada.
That is sad.
We're better at it than the Canadians are, but it was actually invented in Canada. And basketball was also not fully invented in the United States. The guy that invented it was both American and Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
So
but to be fair,
not really
for our purposes, I don't know that I would lump in the Canadians with Europe fully.
Well, we'll say North American.
Sure.
We'll say North American, not including Mexico, because Mexico is obsessed with soccer.
Yes.
But that's because
they beat us in the Gold Cup on Sunday or whenever it was, which is the last time we will ever talk about it.
What's the Gold Cup? Is that the soccer tournament?
Yeah, it's an international competition over here. Mexico's won it 10 times. I don't know that we've won it. They beat us in the final.
Of course Mexico has won it 10 times.
Yep.
It's Mexico. That's what they're good at. They're good at playing soccer.
That is all you need to know, ladies and gentlemen. Like, the proper American attitude towards soccer is Ethan saying, "What's the Gold Cup?"
I at least know the World Cup.
Yes.
And I know that we've never done well.
Mm-hmm. We do pay attention to the World Cup.
Usually, when the World Cup happens, I'm cheering for Spain or Poland or Ireland, usually.
And I cheer for Argentina because of Messi. But I don't know that he'll play in the World Cup in Argentinian.
Oh no, he played for Barcelona. That's why I thought that.
Yep. Yeah, he played in that league for the majority of his career. And now he's playing for Inter Miami in Miami. So he's the hottest thing in the MLS, as he should be. But this is too much soccer for this podcast.
Granted, he's not far from retiring because he's been playing soccer for a long time. So he's just sort of he's letting out the rest of his steam in the U.S. because he knows he's not going to be as good over here as he was over there.
Yeah, he's getting old. And I don't know if he'll play in the World Cup. So if he doesn't play, then...
That would be cool.
The other team I could root for in the World Cup... I could root for a number of teams in the World Cup, but the one I kind of want to root for, even though they have no chance, is Wales. Because Wales has a really cool flag.
I do like the Welsh. They're good people.
I don't know if they'll even make it, though. Like, they have one amazing player but I don't even know if he's still playing. His name is Gareth Bale.
I have heard of him.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time in the Spanish league. He was one of Ronaldo's teammates at Real Madrid. Really great player. Anyway,
Anyway,
yeah.
we're
How
talking
did
about American sports.
America diverge off so much? Like, it kind of seems like we have our own versions of stuff. American football is kind of like soccer. Baseball is kind of like cricket, but
Well, I would say so. Actually, American football is. So this is kind of how I think of it. American football is kind of an improvement on rugby.
yeah, I can see that.
Basketball is an improvement on soccer, or at least it's what we have that's an equivalent to soccer in terms of how it's played and what you do. The guy that invented
I
it
see
was
your
a soccer
point.
coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he was a soccer coach. He was also a Presbyterian minister.
I did not know that.
And baseball is an improvement on cricket. So I think a lot of it does just have to do with part of the nature of what the United States is as a country, which is kind of hard to explain because we're not technically one nation. We are one nation, but what we are is 50 independent states united under a federal government. So we are what the United Nations or what the European Union is trying badly to imitate. And there are vast differences, cultural differences between the states and between the regions within the United States. And I think it's because Americans can have an entirely continental experience without ever leaving our home country.
We're so varied. You're not wrong.
Because our people are so varied, our landscapes are so varied. And our country, the Mediterranean Ocean could fit inside our country. Or the Mediterranean Sea, rather, could fit inside of our country. Easily. The landmass of this country by itself takes up the majority of the landmass of Europe.
The majority? I would have thought we'd be bigger.
We might be bigger. I'm not sure.
So, but I'm an American,
I said
so
that
of course
to be
I would
safe.
say so.
I said that to be safe. I don't think... I know North America as a whole is significantly bigger than Europe, because Europe is actually the second smallest continent.
I wouldn't be surprised if the continental U.S. or the lower 48 are about the same size, and then Alaska just way puts it over the top.
Well, don't forget about the Scandinavian countries, because they kind of stick out at the top there, and they actually add a significant amount of landmass.
This is true.
And all of Eastern Europe is actually fairly broad. But yeah, I would say we at least take up it's at least an equivalent landmass. It's a good chunk of Europe. So I think a lot of it is Americans having a desire to have, like, we have our American things, Europeans have their European things, and never the twain shall meet, kind of. Although some American sports are gaining popularity overseas. Like, apparently there's a French baseball league that's growing in popularity.
Really?
Yeah. Which I find kind of interesting.
Well, it'd be good to see.
Well, and we
know the NFL is doing their international games, has been doing those for years.
Yeah. Like, for some reason, we send two teams over to play a game in London once a year. I don't know why we do that when pretty much the entire crowd there is a bunch of Englishmen wanting to make fun of American football. There's
a bigger fandom over there than you think. And there's a reason it's not just London. It's now Dublin. It's Munich. It's Buenos Aires.
Oh, that's right. My father-in-law did tell me that there are talks of maybe having a European league, even.
Yeah, they've talked about having an expansion team over there, but the logistics would be hell. to pull that off.
Well,
So
well,
yeah, you
see,
would need.
I think it would be okay if they did if Europe had its own American football league,
Yeah, that's
and
definitely doable.
and at that point, and then maybe there could be a championship between the two. That way, we're not having to work out the logistics. So, like the best teams from America and the best teams from Europe
Hmm.
could sort of play in championship,
No, I like that.
and then it winds up being like one team from America and one team from Europe.
Hmm.
I think that would work really well, and ultimately, I think that I think will cause a lot of division to cease. Because even though the division isn't great as far as the teasing back and forth about the sports that we have and what sports we like,
Hmm.
um, it is a major thing. It is a huge thing. Like if we can get Europeans to appreciate American sports and more Americans to appreciate European sports a little bit better, then I think the chance of communication between our two continents is going to be significantly higher.
I see where you're coming
Particularly given
from.
the political situation and most European politicians' opinions of our current president.
There's
But I think
certainly
if
going
we
to be.
can get their people to appreciate us as a people,
Mhm.
then maybe they'll start to understand why we elected him.
Oh, there's certainly going to be higher. Um, because such is the power of sport. I think
You don't
it
care
comes
who
back to
the
a lot
guy
of the
next
stuff
to
we've
you
already
is
said.
or where he's from or what he does for a living. All you care about is that you're at the game.
Pretty much.
It
And you
pales in
were saying that
comparison
earlier.
to being at mass where you shouldn't care who the guy next to you is or where he comes from or what he does for a living. All you care about is the Eucharist. But it's a similar kind of thing.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you were saying?
Well, when you were talking about having an international or having our teams play their teams, I was thinking like, well, that could replace. I mean, like it wouldn't replace the Super Bowl, but you could have kind of like a American Football World Cup, if you will, international competition in that sense, and that would fix the problem with the Pro Bowl. You could get rid of the Pro Bowl and just go to that because the Pro Bowl is for fun and who cares, and you're not going to have the same team chemistry when you pick the best players from all these different teams and put them together.
Yeah, because then we'd have
Football's a hard sport to do that, but you could bring the teams here together plenty more by having an international competition like that where it was actually serious. And the way to make it serious would be to make it nation on nation.
basically like the World Cup. So where we have American football, we have Team USA, Team Canada,
Yep.
Team England. Although they would probably want a Team UK because they would want to fill like their entire defensive line with a bunch of big hairy Scotsmen.
Eh,
I could
it
see
would
that happening.
It would work.
Their entire defensive line is a bunch of big hairy Scotsmen, and all of their wide receivers are just short, fast Irishmen from Northern Ireland.
And the quarterback is the king's nephew or something.
The quarterback is Welsh.
The quarterback is Welsh.
Because we know the best archers in the world come from Wales, so we know he can hit a target.
Fair enough. The
But
coach is his nephew then.
But as the rule goes, this is a rule that I learned from Jeremy Clarkson. If you do well, you're British. If you lose, you're Scottish.
He would say that. He would say that. No matter if he's on the BBC or Amazon.
That's why, like, you ask anybody around the world what nationality Gordon Ramsay is, they'll say, oh, he's British.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you ask Gordon Ramsay what nationality he is, he'll say, I'm fucking Scottish! And there's your answer.
I guess so. Well, do we want to get in this discussion of what the best sport is?
Sure, why not?
All right.
We'll go into motorsports after that because it's kind of a different division.
It is a different division.
Different umbrella category. Still sport, but a different umbrella category.
I would agree. It deserves more inclusion in this, but we're not going to give it that right now. So, I want you to go first, though. Why is baseball the best sport?
Well, for one thing, it's made in USA, so we know that all the best things are made in USA. No, that's not actually the big reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think for most of the other sports, most of the other major sports,
Mm-hmm.
it requires a particular type of person to be great.
Okay.
Like if you picture a football player in your head, there's like two body types that you picture. You know, your running backs and your quarterbacks are lean and fast.
Depends.
Depends. And your linemen are massive and bulky. Also depends. But that's typically what you picture when you picture a football player. When you picture a basketball player, tall, skinny, black guy. That is kind of what you picture when you're like, oh, think of all the best basketball players. Well, Shaq, who's not skinny anymore, but he's still incredibly tall. Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan. Oh, Larry Bird, there's a white guy. But you know, LeBron James, Kobe,
Mm-hmm.
Kareem, all those guys that are just really tall and narrow and have like hands that are like the size of a huntsman spider.
It does benefit. It does benefit you.
It does.
My hands
And
are big, but not that big.
And the game lends itself to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like with what the game is. Baseball? Well, hockey, it's a bunch of burly Russian dudes strapping on blades and you know, making as hard a contact with each other on the ice as possible, and also getting the puck into the goal. Like I see the hockey players, I don't see a lot of variation in body type in hockey players. Except maybe the goalies might be a slightly different.
We're gonna get a lot of dislikes from the Canadians because you qualified all hockey players as Russians.
Canadians too. It's not just Russians, but Russians
Mhm.
are the best hockey players. And if when Edmonton's team is like 85% Russian guys, you don't get to claim anything else.
Perhaps. Wasn't Gretzky Canadian though?
I think he was Canadian born, but Gretzky is a Russian name. Or maybe Polish. I don't know. Somebody's going to lambaste me for potentially getting his heritage wrong. The great one.
Someone's gonna lambaste you for plenty more than that, but
I'm going to get in trouble for a lot more. But then, you know, when you think about soccer, they're all like 5'11" and 6% body fat.
Mhm.
Soccer players kind of all look the same too. But then you look at baseball. You know, you can be tall like Jackie Robinson. You can be, you know, fat like Babe Ruth. You can be skinny. You can be short. You can be broad. You can be narrow. Anybody can play baseball. But you're not necessarily limited in what you can do in baseball by your height or your weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because baseball has something for everyone to do that anyone can do. As long as you can catch and throw a ball, you can play baseball.
Anyone from Manny Rivera to Prince Fielder.
Sure.
So it's the most inclusive sport.
But inclusive in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
It has a place for everybody. It doesn't make places for people.
Yes. Don't hand you to the seat at the table. We don't hand you a seat at the table, but you are welcome to try. What else, though?
It's made in USA.
All right.
But also, I think, for one, it's a gentlemanly sport. Like, fights have broken out over baseball. I'm not going to pretend that hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
But and this is on the fan side as well. The image of the typical, baseball fan
Mhm.
is sort of what would be the stereotypical baseball fan is a lot different than the image of the stereotypical football fan, I think.
This is true.
Fans have a tendency to be a lot less obnoxious and loud, and they're not, mouth foaming troglodytes. And now all the football fans hate me. I like football, don't get me wrong.
In baseball, you come to watch the game and the mascot.
Yes.
In football, you could say that you come to watch the game and be the mascot.
Yeah. But baseball fans don't typically go into the stands with their faces painted and and all that. That's at least not what I've seen from games that I've seen on television and from the game that I went to. But that also is because I was in a stadium full of Canadians and Cardinal fans. And Cardinal fans are objectively the best fans in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just me saying that. Pretty much everybody has said Cardinal fans are the best fans in baseball.
I would disagree, but I have no basis on which to do so. So
you will rarely hear booing in Busch Stadium.
All right.
When the opposing team scores a home run, we stand up and cheer.
What about when the Cubs beat you 11-0?
Then we're a little upset.
Hey, you walked into that one, so.
There's exceptions to every rule. It wouldn't be a rule if there weren't exceptions to it.
Of course. I'm just giving you crap. I'll believe that, yeah, they're the best fans of baseball. I can think of certain franchises where I can't say that for sure.
Boston, anyway.
Anywhere in the Northeast, they're not going to make it.
Pretty much anybody in the Northeast as a fan of any sport is an asshole. That's just because people in the Northeast are assholes anyway.
Yeah.
And they're proud of it too, so I don't think we really made him mad.
If they're wondering what the hell are you talking about, look up a Charlie Barron's video where he meets a guy from Boston and is driving him around.
Any of the Midwest versus East Coast videos, because is he the one with the cop? The Midwest versus
I don't know if
East
I've
Coast
seen that
cops. Oh, it's hilarious. You should watch it. It's great.
I should, yeah.
So, yeah, I think baseball is a gentleman's sport. It's a sport for everybody in multiple levels, in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sport that anybody can be a fan of as well. Because there's, enough with baseball that there's enough to enjoy about it that you don't feel like you need to get into the nitty-gritty of the stats all the time, but you can if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
So baseball is also the game that massive nerds can also appreciate because there's a lot of math involved in how the stats work.
Yes.
I only barely understand how batting stats work, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned 4 months ago what RBI means.
No.
And I look at pitching stats, and I'm like, okay. Now I know what people can do with math degrees. Is they can come up with statistics for baseball. That's what you do with a math degree, is come up with baseball stats. Specifically the pitching stats.
It's fitting for that sport too, because that's a sport where you can actually score it. And there's a real science to knowing how to score a baseball game on a piece of paper that they provide you at the game. And yeah, what to write, what to think, how to evaluate, is that an error or not. No other sport has that I know of.
There's also sort of a...
except for maybe boxing. But that doesn't belong in this conversation, so.
Combat sports would be an entirely different conversation. So there's also there's a sense that kind of everybody has. I think everybody that loves baseball knows it, but I don't think everybody would be willing to admit it. And I'll word it this way. The pitcher may throw the ball, and the batter may hit the ball, but God decides where it lands.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean when I say there's still so many different variables of chance involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can continually change out your pitchers. You can analyze them, try to find their tells all you want. But when you hit that ball, it's God that decides where it lands. Whether it lands in an outfielder's glove and you're out, or whether it goes over the fence and you hit a home run.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Or you're at Fenway Park and it just smacks into that giant ugly wall that they built 80 years ago.
Tradition, history.
Which is the other great thing about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
There's tradition and there's history in baseball that I don't necessarily see at other sports. Like with basketball, at least not baseball fans seem to care as much about the history of their sport as they do about the current landscape of the sport. Evenly. I don't know that I've ever met a hardcore football fan that really cares at all about the history of football.
Depends.
The majority of the football fans that I've met really only care on a season-by-season basis who is playing and who wins, because it's about the competition. And there's a kind of virtue to that. Basketball fans, especially in recent years, I think care a lot more about old school basketball than they do about today's basketball. Like, I think a lot of guys are going to be talking a lot more about, at least what I hear is a lot more guys talking about the glory days of Michael Jordan and Shaq and Charles Barkley
Mm-hmm.
than they do as much. Now, they still talk a lot about Steph Curry, and he deserves to be talked about. And they'll talk a lot about Kobe, and he deserves to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And they may talk about LeBron, and he, for both good and bad reasons, deserves to be talked about. But it just doesn't feel the same. And that could be because there's not as many basketball fans around where I am. Because there's not as much of a geographic love of basketball as there would be. Like, geographically, I got like two options for basketball, and that's the Bulls and the Thunder.
Okay.
Maybe the Timberwolves. That'd be a little bit farther away, but maybe the Timberwolves.
Just don't pick Milwaukee.
No, I won't pick Milwaukee.
Good.
Wisconsin can have all their teams and can keep all of their teams.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it would feel weird if I ever cheer for a Wisconsin sports team. I'd feel like I'd be betraying the Chiefs.
Why would you be betraying the Chiefs?
Because the Chiefs and the Packers have been rivals since the first two Super Bowls.
And did they split them, or did the Packers win both?
Packers won both.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have never beaten the Packers in the Super Bowl. They've never even played the Packers in the Super Bowl.
Well, I hope you never get the chance to try, because I hope the Packers never make it back to the Super Bowl. But fair enough. Fair enough, and why baseball is the best sport.
Because people can still, they can love current baseball and they can love past baseball. They can reminisce about all the Game 7s and all the Game 3s and all the Game 5s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Babe Ruth is still great. And people still care about it. Joe DiMaggio is still great.
There is something to having a 7-game series over the one single game, I think.
I think it gives you a better chance to get to know your opponent. Of there being a back and forth in terms of how they play.
You can argue either way with it. Like, yeah, you get your chance to know your opponent. You get your chance to adapt, to overcome. You know, if you come Stanley Cup, not this season, but the season 2 seasons ago, Edmonton lost the first 3 games against Florida. They then won the next 3. They gave themselves a chance to make, even though they failed in Game 7, they gave themselves a chance to make that insane comeback.
I had to be cheering for Florida because my wife grew up there.
This is fair.
Even though they've been consistently winning the Stanley Cup, I can't cheer against the Florida Panthers.
You are now a 2-time Stanley Cup champion.
No, my first loyalty is to the Blues and always will be to the Blues.
Yeah. Who I don't like because they beat the Wild too many times.
Everybody's beaten the Wild too many times.
Shut up. We're actually pretty good right now. We just have to learn how to win a playoff game. Or a playoff series.
All of your sports teams have to learn how to win a playoff game.
The Wolves are the best right now. Because we made it to the divisional round this year and we made it to the Western Conference Finals.
I'll again revisit the point about how few people actually care about basketball now.
Yeah.
The NBA is
the NBA
is less popular now than it has ever been.
So I don't know the numbers, but to your point, I think a lot of people would look at the modern NBA and be like, well, it's not as good as the old NBA because they shoot too many threes. It's kind of boring. Just get to the perimeter and shoot a 3. Whoever does that the best wins. And some people, I know one in particular, actually know the science of the sport and can go into great depth that is way above my head in terms of what's happening and how they're moving, how they're blocking, how they're playing defense, and what's the strategy involved. Like, if you understand that, cool. But it's definitely a minority of people that do. Like baseball is a more accessible sport in that way. Football is a more accessible sport. There's a number that are more accessible. So, or just more widely understood.
Yeah.
So, for my own list, I had an idea of like a couple that it would be, and then that list grew to a few more, and I created a set of criteria to kind of evaluate the sports. And I played my one Dominic Trump card that I played, the sport that is excluded arbitrarily because I say I can is soccer. Although if I hadn't done that, it would have been in the top 4. It would have been in the top 4 for sure. So my first rule in terms of what makes the best sport is that it has to be noble. What do I mean by noble? I mean that there has to be a noble end to it. I'm eliminating things with this like power slap, which is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard of in my life.
That's not even a combat sport. That's just watching men slap each other in the face.
Mm-hmm. That's like, oh, the NFL got rid of too much CTA. We can make up for that somehow.
That's rugby's not violent enough. There's not enough head injuries in rugby, so we need to watch them happen in slow motion.
Yep.
From across the table.
This also gets rid of most esports. The one I can think of in my head that would be an exception is Gran Turismo Live. Because if you get a chance to watch those on
that's
YouTube,
an e-motorsport.
It's an e-motorsport. That's actually pretty cool.
Isn't that actually the one that they actually drafted a Formula 1 driver out of as well? There was a movie about that a while ago.
There was a movie about it. I'm pretty sure back when they were getting the league going, there was a Formula 3 or Formula E, whatever, driver that was like one of the big winners early on. And not that he like never won after that. His name was Igor Fraga from Brazil. So maybe he went up to Formula 1 or some other Formula thing, or they did draft somebody out of it. I guess I can't say, but it would not be surprising. That racing game is also realistic enough that would make sense. But I digress.
Mm.
Sports like this just get eliminated because you can't be in cornhole. Cool sport. Never going to be in this conversation ever. it also has to have talented players. So if a sport was really, really good, but there aren't a ton of like really talented people playing it, I wouldn't count it for this. And I'm not thinking of any examples that off the top of my head right now, but the talent pool has to be wide enough. There have to be enough people playing it that are elite at it. Number 2, it has to be fair. So when we think of like the best video games, the best ones are where anybody can come in and your ability to pay to win is limited at best. So one of Ethan and I's favorite games is Helldivers. You can buy packs of skins, cosmetics, upgrades, weapons, and such, but you don't need to buy many of them, and you actually reasonably can get the currency in game by just playing to buy the ones that you want. And then you can ignore the rest. Another one we really like is...
You can also do pretty reasonably well in just with the base stuff that they give you and not have to go any farther.
This is true. Deep Rock Galactic is another game we like that is pretty similar. This is where I exclude baseball, though, because baseball does not have a salary cap. There's no reason that my Twins, and I know your team has won like 9 World Series, so maybe this is a foreign concept, but there's no way the small market teams can really compete. Every now and again they do. Like the Diamondbacks made the World Series a few years ago. That's a big deal because they are not expected to get that far. Mm-hmm. This year, what did we have? We had the team that could afford to pay Shohei Ohtani $700 million. But, we'll be nice because he wants to be nice. We'll defer $680 million of it. We'll till after his 10-year contract. We'll just pay him $2 million a year so we can load up the roster even more.
I remember you telling me about that.
And then, by the way, who do they have to run up against in the World Series and beat? Such a poor market, underpaid team known as the Yankees. The one time you'll ever hear the Yankees even remotely compared with that label because they're playing the Dodgers.
Poor market or underpaid. Yes.
Like, it's just not fair.
Yeah.
It's a great sport in many other ways. If they fix the salary cap problem, they automatically become one of the top 4, top 3 sports potentially, in at least in my ranking. But you don't even get to advance in the discussion if your sport is not fair in that level. This also kind of rules out basketball, because while basketball isn't the same type of offender that Major League Baseball is, they do have a salary cap, but they let you go over it. You just have to pay a luxury tax to go over it. So it does favor big market teams as well, and there's not much diversity, relatively speaking, in terms of which teams have actually won championships. So the Celtics and the Lakers account for way too many of them, and we didn't even mention the Bulls with Jordan.
Yeah.
Who got 6. So anyway,
I will later have a counter to your no salary cap argument. That's more of a moral one, or more of a personal thing. But I'll let you finish.
Okay.
It's going to be my own personal justification for leaving baseball at the top.
Okay. So the remaining criteria I have basically boil down to it has to be strategic on both a team level and individual level, and it has to be challenging physically and mentally on a team and individual level, and there has to be tradition to it. The more tradition, the better. This leaves me with 3 sports to evaluate by those, and hockey, American football, and golf. And I didn't know how that comparison was going to come out, so I tried to put together my own spreadsheet of, okay, here's like subcategories within the ones I just listed off. Here's how I'm kind of weighting them. Here's the score on a scale of 1 to 5 that I give each of them. And briefly, if I just go down my semi-scientific way of doing this, because it's very subjective and the weighting could change. Golf is the most traditional. It goes back way longer than anything else. Hockey is second best at that because of the Stanley Cup and time.
Yeah.
Environment. a mix of both the climates you play in and the crowds in which the crowd slash stadiums in which you play in. Golf and football are tied for me in that one. The lack of luck needed. I think that if your sport rewards you for being lucky, that's a negative. And this is a knock against hockey. Because even though they're insanely talented, even though there's a lot of strategy and such, even though it's a phenomenal team sport, to a degree, you are just hoping that a puck squirts by the goalie per some crazy bounce. So football wins that one. Golf in second. Football wins on the amount of.
I will give football one of the most strategic of the American pro sports. I will give it that.
And it does win on that front for me as well. Physical challenge, hockey wins. Mental challenge, golf wins. And then an odd one to throw in for a comparison that involves golf is like team synchronization. So basically, I ended up penalizing golf, and
for being a single player sport, basically.
Yeah. Football wins that one a little bit over hockey, but hockey is a really great team sport too. But in football, you have more people that need to work together. You have more cohorts of people that need to work together. An offense, a defense, a special teams. Even if there's one really important player, like the quarterback, that can make or break your team in a lot of ways, he can't win all of your games for you. Or at least it's really hard to. If he could, the Buffalo Bills would have potentially a couple Super Bowls by now, but they don't yet. I do kind of like it. Hockey's a phenomenal team sport too because you've got fewer players, like 20 about, but they're coordinated in different lines. You don't pause the game to change lines, like the game's still going, so 5 people get off the ice, 5 people get on and immediately swing stuff. But where hockey suffers a little bit is the fact that no matter how good your team is, no matter how good your team's playing, if the opposing goalie gets on a heater, you're screwed. If you just sometimes that just happens and you cannot get a puck past him and you're frustrated because you know you're playing better, but it just ain't your night because it's his night. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So more pieces have to line up for the football team to perform well in a game than a hockey team does in a game. When you add all that up and the weighting and all this stuff, I ended up finding that American football won. But I did also note that the way that I did the scoring, if I remove the team sync category from it,
hockey?
then golf and football are tied at the top. I think more people. I think the world would be better if more people watched golf than do. And I understand how you could compare it to watching paint dry, as many people have joked.
I've watched golf a few times. I don't mind it. My wife can't stand it, but I don't mind it.
Well, fair enough. But we live in too fast-paced a world that is too fast-paced. And we do need some sports to balance that in our lives. And we also should play sports that challenge us to the level mentally and physically that golf does. And it's accessible to anybody. If you play golf long enough, you know what I'm talking about. So whether you ride or walk, whether you're competitive, whether you're not, whether you have 1 beer or 6 during the round, there's something special about golf. There really is. So I didn't know how that was going to shake up, but it shook out as American football being the top for me.
That's a solid choice. I was probably going to give that. I would give American football second place in mine after baseball.
You are a good American.
And then hockey would be a close third. I think it's mostly because I don't tend to count. Not that the non-team sports don't count to me as sports. It's that my brain divides them into a different kind of category.
Mm-hmm.
So things like golf, tennis, pickleball, which is a professional league now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Not surprising, but
there's professional pickleballers. It's actually more entertaining to watch than tennis, in my opinion.
I believe it.
I think because the ball in tennis, the ball doesn't make as much of a sound when it hits the racket or when it hits the court as it does in pickleball. Like the pickleball paddle against the ball actually makes a really satisfying noise.
Hmm.
Which is another reason I like baseball and golf so much is because when the bat hits the ball, there's that thwack.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear it sound good. When you hear it,
mm-hmm.
and you can tell that it's going over the wall.
Yep.
And you can just watch it. And there's something to being in the stands and sort of everything being quiet. And the batter swings, you hear the crack, and you just watch the ball. It's like everything goes into slow motion. And the farther back it goes, it keeps going and going, and everybody stands to their feet. And it hits that back fence, or it goes over that back wall, and everybody just cheers.
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledge and to concede your point about there not being salary caps in Major League Baseball, and I think that's ridiculous and it's absurd and it needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they were to do that, well, for one thing, I think Ohtani would probably just go back to Japan.
Yeah, they're screwed with him. They can't redo that meaningfully anytime soon.
No.
And not even because of him, because Soto signed a 13 years, $700 million deal with the Mets.
But that may reflect more poorly on the team's ownership and management and on the cities that the team comes from than it does on the league and the sport itself. Maybe on the league as well, but because I know that the league is making a considerable amount of money off of that as well. To me, that's not a poor reflection on the sport because I'm taking the sports for what they are. I'm not taking them as I'm not taking the professional leagues as the be all end all of the sport. Because we now have 2 football leagues. We also have the UFL, and the rules are slightly different. And the operation and the games are done in a slightly different way. There's there's minor league baseball, which is slightly different than how Major League Baseball is. But the core heart and soul of the sport is what I tend to judge a sport by.
That's a very good point because, to your point, if you just evaluate it on like the pure sport itself, or like, how would I go do this with my friends if I had enough friends for whatever the sport is? Like baseball easily beats football in that scenario.
Although what I will say is that the easiest sport just to get a couple guys together and go out and have a pickup game is basketball.
This is true. But it's not the same if it's just a couple guys.
There's like, it's not the same, but it can still be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
You try playing a game of baseball with 4 people.
Yeah, not going to work. But I did qualify what I said, I guess.
You need at least 18 people total to have a baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
Or a softball game. Which softball is, baseball with a gland problem.
Someone likes his Chesterton.
I'm not wrong. But it's played basically the same way. Although statistically speaking, it's actually a lot more difficult to get a home run in baseball than it is in softball than it is in baseball.
Really?
Yeah, because the area, my uncle explained this to me once, the area on the ball. There's a certain area on the ball that matches up with a certain area on the bat that when you hit it, you'll get a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Proportionally speaking, that area on a baseball is a lot bigger than it is on a softball.
I imagine mass of the ball has something to do with that.
Yeah, so because the softball is a lot bigger, it's a bigger target, it actually is a lot more difficult to hit it in exactly the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Which also does, in a way, make for a more interesting game. Because then you have a lot more defensive play and things like that happening. But no, I was judging the sports for what they are, because if you judge a sport itself based purely on its professional league, and on the league commission, then that's like judging a nation entirely on the basis of its government, which I wouldn't do. I judge a nation on its people. Now, sometimes a government is a reflection of the people, but I judge them on I judge baseball on its culture, on its players, and on its fans than I do on the league and the people that run it as a whole. So there not being a salary cap doesn't actually bother me all that much. $700 million is an obscene amount of money to pay a guy to play baseball for 10 years or for 13 years in the case of Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also Los Angeles and New York.
Yeah.
St. Louis doesn't do that.
Which is why you can't really blame the cities.
That's why we consistently have a good team, whatever the Dodgers are.
Yeah. I mean, if you admit that frame of mind as the way you're judging the sports, it's hard to argue with you. Although, to a degree, this is just the contrarian in me, which you know I have much of within me. But soccer would beat baseball. Soccer would beat baseball if judged on the raw materials.
I go back to my original point of soccer players kind of all look the same. They're all similar height. They're all similar build. You
could go either way with it. Baseball is a phenomenal sport when you judge it that way.
Because again, remember, anybody can be great. You don't even have to be able to run all that fast to play baseball. If you can knock it out of the park, or if you got a cannon for an arm and you can get it from the right field to home base, like Aaron Judge can. Which, granted, Aaron Judge can just kind of do anything. But
you don't even need those. You just need to be able to get on base, which is what pisses me off about Milwaukee. Is because that's what their major strength. They only hit so many home runs. They just get on base a lot, and it's frustrating to watch that. They just way too often just in position to score.
That was my frustration with Toronto. St. Louis likes to score with a lot of 2-run homers because we've got a lot of really good home run artists, especially at home, and we like to leave basically all of the weight of defense on the pitcher, which is why we have 1,000 of them. But yeah, like I said, I judge the sport based on what it is and how I see it. Soccer is a good contender with just raw materials, but I don't know, baseball still kind of gets me.
No, I feel that. Food for thought. Let us know in the comments what you think. Tell us if we're right. Don't tell us if we're wrong. Just kidding. Tell us either.
Tell us if we're right, and tell us if Dominic is wrong.
Sounds good. I'll actually have to reply to comments.
But
let's bring it to motorsports.
My one last point about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest comedy sketches of all time was baseball related.
This is true.
It was not soccer related, or basketball or football related.
Mm-hmm.
Who's on First? Actually, possibly the greatest comedy sketch ever written for a cast of 2 is baseball related.
What's on second?
I don't know. Third base.
Third base. But yeah, let's bring it to motorsports because you and I kind of both put them in their own category.
And I judge them on different merits than I'll judge the regular physical team sports.
But do they deserve to be judged in that category, though? Like, I can see why you would put them in their own, but it is a sport. Like, it's very clearly a sport.
Well, it's not that I'm judging it as a sport, but it's like I have a sports, and then I have the physical sports and the motorsports. Not to say that motorsports aren't physical, but like motorsports is centered around the car. You know, the team that cares for the car, the guy that drives the car. It's mostly centered around the car and the driver.
The Union of Car and Driver. So,
'Cause-
with a supporting cast. So, interestingly, I don't know how. If I had brought them into my earlier discussion, my fairness comment would have ruled out Formula One. Because Formula One is also something where it's just the team tries to spend as much money as it can to make the car as best as it can. Now, in Formula One's defense,
that's because Ferrari is the one behind consistently making the best Formula One cars.
actually not true. McLaren.
It's not Ferrari. Oh, well,
The number of times that you'll start an F1 highlights clip from this year and this past year, and possibly before then, and it's like it's a McLaren 1-2, and it's like, yeah, it always is a McLaren.
of course it's
1-2.
a McLaren. Well, isn't what's his name?
Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are their two top drivers.
That's not who I was thinking of. I think that one of the top drivers in Formula One drives a Ferrari.
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton. That's what I'm thinking of.
But results
that
wise,
everybody
he
hates.
is. Before that, he was at Mercedes, but I've seen enough highlights in Formula One this year to know that he's not like getting a bunch of podiums. In Formula One's defense, with regards to the fairness thing, they celebrate winners differently. They celebrate podiums differently. Like, second place is not the best loser. Third place is not the second best loser. Like, if
you actually earned it when you made it onto the podium.
Yeah, if you made a podium, that's sick. One of their drivers, Nico Hulkenberg, recently, he finally, after years and years of trying, got a podium, and you could see he got third, and you could see his family and the crew going nuts, and he's going nuts. Like, I got a podium. You would not get that in American football. Oh, I was the best conference championship loser this year. That's not how that works.
Well, I think that's just how racing sports are in general too.
Mm-hmm.
Because we still celebrate like our Olympic athletes, we still celebrate the silver and bronze medalists because they're still really good.
Maybe it's something with whether it's European or not. Because I watch a bunch of IndyCar highlights, and second place doesn't get the same type of treatment. NASCAR, second place definitely doesn't get the same type of treatment. And maybe the driver is smart enough to realize, maybe in NASCAR the driver is smart enough to realize, okay, I'm going to, towards the end here, for me to make a move to try and get first, I'm going to wreck my car. I'm just going to take the second place points and second place money. Maybe that's the case. Probably not.
There is a possibility that it's a European thing, as far as the value and the honor. Because I could see it being definitely a more American thing of, well, it only mattered if you came in first. So if you're not going to come in first, don't bother talking to me. But I don't know. Yeah, there's a good point to that.
Mm-hmm. In general, though, there's a lot of nobility to motorsports. I mean, to sports in general, but to motorsports. Even if it's NASCAR. NASCAR is amazing. There's a reason we call the Indianapolis 500 the greatest spectacle in racing. There's a reason that Formula One is so beloved around the world. You might even say there's a reason why, probably in my opinion, the best esport out there is the Gran Turismo stuff.
Well, because there's something about a race. Even when you're watching, if you go to the track and you watch a horse race, because there's just something about it, seeing who's going to come in first place. This is basically everybody, you start at an even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with a lot of motor racing, you do your qualifying lap, and then that determines, where you are to start, because there's so many racers. If we lined them all up, the track would be wider than it is long.
This is basically all auto racing, yep.
It's
horse racing, you can do different things.
Yeah. But there just is something about it. Something about a race. And I think this even goes back to the ancient Romans. which is why there was something about the chariot races
Mhm.
that was different than going to the Coliseum.
Because even if one person, me thinking out loud, even if there's one person that has a better horse, has a better chariot, has better training and such, there's something honorable about simply putting two people on the line and saying, cross that post first.
Yeah, one of you get there first. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could just be because it's like it feels like a more even match, and you're there for the racer. Like when you go to NASCAR, you're kind of there for the driver.
Mhm.
You don't care necessarily as much. I mean, you might care a little bit about what car he's driving, but you don't really care whose colors are on it
Mhm.
or whose colors he's wearing. So there's definitely the team behind him that he could not win without.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's like you go to the races to watch a driver.
Yep.
And to cheer for your driver. And he is pitting himself kind of on equal footing with everybody else.
Mhm.
And I would say that racing probably is the one sport that genuinely treats every participant as an equal.
They try.
Or at
The
least
teams
tries
try.
to. Yeah.
The teams try their hardest to get around the rules, but they've
Because you want to win.
we've come a distance from the time when you could pull a lever during the middle of a race and hundreds of pounds of lead shot would just pour out the side of your car down to the bottom, and your car would get hundreds of pounds lighter.
Yeah.
This did happen, people. It was one of many cheats that they invented. But NASCAR,
Or when
from what I can, they try and make it as even as they can.
Who was it that made a roll cage out of cardboard and painted it to look like it was metal? That was in European rallying.
Maybe.
I don't think it wasn't Alfa Romero.
That'd be funny.
I want to say
A fancy
I'm not really sure
European
who it was.
brand doing that would be kind of funny.
It was for rallying, so it's actually it's actually just like a regular car. It wasn't even a luxury or sports car.
Even so, the closest thing to that in NASCAR I know of, I think this was Darrell Waltrip. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else. That they dipped the car in acid to eat away the metal, and it was another way of making it lighter. And eventually, the way it got found out was that some inspector kind of just put his arm on the top of the car, and it went through the top of the car.
It's basically made of aluminum foil at that point.
Yeah. If you're into creative engineering, like if that's your stick in life, there's no sport better for you than racing. And then just listen to stories.
This of everybody. Well, them trying to get around the rules. That is sort of an encouragement of creativity. Is just trying to get around the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to do everything you can, because everybody is trying to do everything they can to get an advantage. And kind
They're
of
all
short
cheaters.
of sabotaging somebody else's vehicle, it's at least ethically, they're kind of no holds barred.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where the moral law comes in there precisely, but
Well, cheating is always wrong. It's against the seventh commandment.
That is true.
Because cheating amounts to stealing a victory, which is a violation of the seventh commandment.
Mm-hmm. But there's still motorsports. They're still cool. There's still everything we've said about a race and why it's appealing. All that still applies. All of it makes sense.
So should we, since we've done the which is best from the physical sports side, should we do a what is best from a motorsports perspective?
Sure.
I don't really have an opinion on that because I don't have a lot of exposure to motorsports, but I would say it's probably unexpected. Like most people are probably going to expect me to say either NASCAR or IndyCar
Hmm.
or Formula One, but I won't. And
You,
I think of the three of them, I think IndyCar probably has a higher is the highest of those three,
hmm.
just because it kind of combines the best of all worlds as far as NASCAR and Formula One.
I would say it depends on taste. If you're just
Yeah,
picking of those, if you're just picking of those three, my own pick would be IndyCar. If you're looking across all of racing as a whole, I wouldn't say that endurance racing is the best, but I could see why people would say it's the best. So this is the 24 hours of Le Mans,
yeah.
or the 24 hours of Daytona, or the 24 hours of Nürburgring, or the
I
Nürburgring.
was going to
Um,
say that those were probably either the 24 hours at Le Mans, which those races aren't so much that they're different because
mhm.
at that point you have manufacturers going head to head.
Yep.
That's what the entire movie of Ford v Ferrari is about. Because Ford
Hmm.
tries to buy out Ferrari, and Ferrari starts to, they want to, but then their lawyers find a certain clause and then go, no, we don't like this, and then they just leave. So Henry Ford Jr. goes back to Detroit and says, we are going to build a supercar and annihilate them at Le Mans when they have won every Le Mans for the past several years at that point.
And they do
Ferrari
it.
has. It took them a few years, but they finally did it.
Yep.
With the Ford GT.
Hmm.
Now, Formula One and IndyCar and Formula Two, also Formula Three, they have the advantage of the participating vehicles being cars that are specifically designed for that,
Hmm.
for the race. Like an IndyCar is an IndyCar. And of course, there are other types of motorsport where the vehicle is specifically designed for that, but in between IndyCar and the Formula races, that's
Hmm.
those are the biggest ones. NASCAR is stock car racing. Even though I think we should probably have more than three different cars in NASCAR.
If more manufacturers want to get involved, I ain't gonna complain.
All we have right now is Mustangs, Camaros, and Toyota Camrys.
Yep.
I would like to see more manufacturers get involved. I would like to see more models. At one point, the Ford NASCAR was the Ford Fusion,
We
which is a
forget that
fantastic car.
not terribly long ago, Dodge was in there.
Dodge used to be in there. They put Chargers in there, didn't they?
Um, maybe at one point, but
That's
I
the
would
only
have said
stock car that I can
said
think of from
Viper.
Dodge. Oh,
Well, not
no,
Vipers,
Viper
but
wouldn't count because that's a supercar.
yes, yeah. What am I talking about then?
If we're putting Vipers in, then Chevy's going. You know that Chevy's putting in Corvettes and Ford is putting in GTs. The
They
Charger's the
just
only
don't look
Dodge
any.
car that I can think of that would be good for a stock car race because it's
Just in my
also
brain,
American
I'm just
muscle.
remembering this toy Dodge NASCAR that I used to have, and it looks nothing like. It doesn't look like a Charger. So I don't know. I don't know what it would have been.
All NASCARs kind of look the same
This is true, but let us know in
because
the
of
comments.
the modifications that are made for. They're stock cars that have been modified for racing
Mhm.
rather than a car that is specifically built for the race, which I think is the advantage that
Mhm.
IndyCar and the Formula uh, circuits have over that. Because you also have the engineering of how can I make something go as fast as humanly possible.
Mhm.
Which, granted, Formula One cars are designed to go fast around the curves, not so much on the straights. Which is why in a drag race, a NASCAR can beat a Formula One car.
NASCAR can do pretty well. I mean, when NASCAR 1 or 2 years ago went to Le Mans as a project, and part of that was, well, we're going to take all the restrictions off that we have on cars, basically. Go Hendrick Motorsports, go have fun. Make the fastest thing you possibly can.
So what was it?
It was a NASCAR. It was just had an insane number of horsepower. and one of the things that made news for it was how loud it was.
What was the base
Which-
model?
It would have been a Chevy
So probably a Corvette.
Camaro.
Oh, okay.
So Hendrick is a Chevy group. So
Okay.
and they're the
See, I know-
best. They're the most accomplished team in the business.
I know Chevy
So-
consistently sends Corvettes to Le Mans.
Which makes sense. Just this was its own.
Le
This
Mans
wasn't even in a.
is- This
this
was
was
like
in
a
its own
one-off
class.
just to see how well it could go.
Yeah, this was in its own experimental class. So it was going to win because it wasn't going to lose, but it wasn't
Yeah.
going to win anything of great import. It's for the spirit of racing.
Right.
Um,
because Le Mans is basically everybody built a supercar and we'll see who wins. And they wind up being stock supercars.
Yep.
That people with more money than sense can actually buy.
Mhm.
Although I don't know that I'd accuse very many supercar owners of that because most supercars are just really cool.
This conversation has reminded me of a much forgotten endurance race in motorsports, and I'm forgetting the details. I don't even know the name of it, or even the full course. But basically, imagine a cross-country, cross-desert, cross-whatever terrain you come upon race in Africa that ends in like Morocco or something.
That's a horse race.
That's
There's
an
a
auto
motor
race.
version?
There at least was. It probably stopped now. I
Because
think it is.
there has historically been, and there still is, there's a horse version. It's what the
I
movie
believe that.
Hidalgo is about.
Hmm.
Of the one time an American went over there with an American Mustang.
And won, right?
Mhm.
Excellent. But yeah,
Now
at one
the-
point there was an endurance race, like just kind of over whatever terrain you came across. I mean, there was a course, but I mean, this is well before GPS and the internet, so you're using maps and you're using other vehicles with you and other vehicles that you are teamed up with to restock and refuel and carry spare parts as needed, and it was one hell of a endeavor. So for cool
Interesting.
factor, that's gotta count for something.
It does. But I think when we're trying to judge, when we're judging them, I think the motorsports that we have to take into consideration probably more so
Mhm.
are the ones that have the greatest number of people consistently watching.
Agreed. And of those, I would say IndyCar.
So as
So-
cool as the dirt racing is that we have, and the other sorts of derby types of races, and the other circuits that we have over here, and the supercar circuits, yeah, I would say probably it winds up being between NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And so IndyCar winds up taking the top spot for that because it just has kind of the best of both worlds for all of that.
I would agree.
And although a lot of IndyCar bros that I've met are a little bit pretentious, Formula 1 people are more pretentious than that.
Like we said in the last podcast, we are English with improvements.
Well, like I remember seeing a short on YouTube at one point of, like, and the title was Formula 1 versus NASCAR. There is no comparison, and it was just a comparison of the sound the cars make coming past you. Supposedly,
it?
Formula 1 cars sound cooler coming past you than NASCARs, but my first thought is like, yeah, there is no comparison because they are so different.
Maybe there
They
was
are way
when
different.
they used to sound cooler. They don't sound as cool now.
The Formula 1 cars.
Cars
Why are
have
they
changed.
going electric?
I think they have a type of hybrid system. I don't know how long that's been the case, but it's some change with the engines. So
Where NASCAR's like, haha, V6 and V8 go brrr.
yeah, we have fun. We have a lot of fun. Perhaps where we can close this evening. So we've talked quite a bit in the first two podcasts about some of the very important things in family life. How does sports fit into family life? Properly speaking, it makes sense that if your kids want to play a sport, and that it seems to not just be a passing fancy, like, oh, I think that looks cool, but there's something more to it than that, then it makes sense to just help try and get them into that. But it also seems like families can easily place sports in the place of God in their lives. Like, oh, well, yeah,
We see that.
we have no time as a family, and we have no time for church because we got a hockey tournament out in town.
But we see that far too often here in the U.S. I don't know how it is in other countries. It probably is just as bad because everybody values sports kind of the same way. It's just different sports that we value.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I'm going to tell all of my kids is that they can, you can play any sport and you can play any instrument you want, but you have to work at it. Because nothing worth loving is also not worth working towards.
Mm-hmm.
If you love something, it's going to hurt you. If you love something, there are going to be times when you don't like it. And there are going to be aspects of it that you don't necessarily like. And if ever my sons play in the Little League and they have the frustrations that they come to me, or if they ever play in Pee Wee League of anything and they have frustrations that they bring to me, then I'll say, probably, do you still want to play? Do you still like baseball? Do you still love
Mm-hmm.
soccer? Do you still love football? Then work and get better. And realize that somebody is always going to be better than you.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be a Shohei Ohtani. There's always going to be a Juan Soto. And just because that other team has that guy, that doesn't make you any less of a player.
Mm-hmm. Be the best version of yourself that you can be, and no one else.
And I think sports has, in my personal view, more to offer in the relation between father and son. It has more for fathers to have to their sons than mothers and or fathers to have with their daughters. But even with girls, it's somebody is always going to be better than you. If I have a daughter that wants to play basketball, she has to be okay with playing against Caitlin Clark, who is apparently so good that people actually care about the WNBA now. Basically, that's one of the things that I will have to teach all of my children if they pursue a sport. Most likely, it'll be my sons.
Mm-hmm.
That there will always be somebody bigger, always somebody stronger, and always somebody faster. If you want to play baseball, you got to be okay with Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto being on the other team.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be okay playing against them, knowing that you don't have as much chance, but still willing to swing that bat as hard as you can.
So you need to fight as hard as you can for the team, but you can't be someone you're not. To
Exactly.
kind of basically repeat what I said earlier. Just be yourself.
Just be you, and you play to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care as much if my children win or lose in whatever leagues that they're in. What I care is that my children did the absolute best that they could. So I'm not going to sit there and scream at the umpire and tell him that he's blind or deaf or dumb or that he's been paid off. And I'm not going to overly criticize his coach, no matter how incompetent he might be. But what I will tell my son is that you play the best way you know how. And if you think you can hit the ball, you swing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a strike, but you got to swing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You won't know unless you swing.
This is true.
Again, baseball has all of the best analogies just for life anyway. And baseball has the best life lessons.
I propose golf, but I also can't argue it. I can't argue with what you're saying though. I mean, for all the reasons that you said, for all the lessons that can be learned from approaching the game in that way, pretty darn good. Are there any sports that you wouldn't let your kids play? For myself, I can't really think of like any right now that I absolutely wouldn't let them play.
Well, if my sons want to play football, I'm going to say not until you're in high school. Just because, honestly, I think the Pee Wee football leagues are kind of ridiculous. And just the increased risk of potential injury. Granted, at a certain age, they're a lot softer. And, when you're 7, you can take a fairly hard hit and do okay. But it's more the risk of head injury in football that worries me with that. But I don't know that there are any legitimate sports or things that I consider to be legitimate sports that I would not allow my children to play.
Just, various prudential decisions, as the case would be.
Yeah.
That's basically where I'm at. Like, I guess I could think of, like, boxing as, like, something where, like, I'm probably not going to be I'm not necessarily going to be the friendliest towards you asking to play that or something. But maybe if there's a good gym that can train you and train you properly and takes care of its people. Okay. Something. I might not hope you go pro at it, but
yeah,
there's still lessons to be learned.
Well, I think if at any point my kids are like, hey, one of my sons is like, hey, I think I kind of like to get into combat sports, I'm going to go, maybe. And then goes, yeah, I can't decide if I want to do boxing or MMA. I'll probably say I would more encourage MMA.
Mm-hmm.
MMA fighters have a significantly higher likelihood of being able to finish a sentence when they're 50.
And you can say I'm a black belt in 3 things as opposed to I can box. Like,
it's
so cool.
I'm good at punching.
Yeah.
And like the only reason that Muhammad Ali could still, was still literate by the time that he died was because nobody could actually hit him. I mean, if you ever see that man dodge punches, it's like, makes me dizzy. But the combat sports are legitimate sports, and with all the other sports, they have to be approached with prudence, just like everything else, and with temperance and with virtue. But yeah, I think as long as you don't let the sports dictate your family schedule, or let them dictate how you treat your children, then I don't ever see sports being a bad thing for a family. Especially if you have like family sporting events. Like you have a family golf tournament or something.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a large family. Or a family tennis tournament or something like that. Inter-family basketball game or football game. That sort of thing. For Dutch or flag football. That I can see. Also just being a really, really good thing of bringing a family together and bringing them closer.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't see too many negatives other than the possible negatives of it taking away from the spiritual life, because everybody wants to play sports on. Everybody wants to have their little league games and their kids' soccer games on Sundays. Well, why couldn't you do Saturday? Or why can't you even do an evening during the week? Or like a Friday evening? That kind of thing. You got Friday evening and Saturday. It's called a weekend for a reason. Sunday's a day of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Which sports are a form of leisure. But I'd rather experience that by taking my son to the park and tossing a ball back and forth.
Yeah.
Or teaching him how to pitch or hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Or how to throw a football. Not necessarily by driving all of my kids to their, 15 different sports that they all do. That's the other thing. If you have a large family, you can encourage your children to pursue what sports they want. But if you have 6 children and each one plays a different sport all at the same time, you basically signed yourself up for a nightmare of logistics. But granted, the
Absolutely.
likelihood of that happening just because the kids want to do it is actually relatively low.
True.
With larger families, the families of with 6 or more children, you're probably more likely to have like maybe 2 or 3 that are interested in sports.
Yeah.
At least to that degree. The likelihood, let's say the family has 3 boys and 2 girls, where, one son plays baseball, one son plays basketball, one son plays football, one daughter plays volleyball, and one daughter plays basketball. The likelihood of that actually happening and it being of the kids' own volition and not just pressure from the parents because they were no good at sports when they were kids and now they want to vicariously relive that through their children, the likelihood of that happening is actually relatively low. And if you have a disproportionate number of your children, if you haven't a lot of children that seem to be aggressively interested in sports, chances are it's not the kids. Chances are it's probably being heavily influenced by the parents.
Maybe.
Now, not to say there aren't family dynasties that happen in sports.
Oh, cool. If I happen to run one, fine. I'm not betting on it.
Well, like brothers can be in the leagues together.
But even then, it depends. Like, your different age ranges are going to have different leagues and different practice times and different game times, and then it's basically like they're playing their own sport.
Yeah.
They just get to inherit some gear from their older brother. Maybe.
I mean, if it's connected to the school, it might be a little bit different because all the schools are probably going to schedule it around school hours as well, based on when they do the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So it might not be quite as bad. It might just push back when each of them gets picked up from school.
Sure.
And especially if it's an actual K through 12 school, that's all in one place, then they're just at different places of the same facility. So at that point, it's not quite that bad. But yeah, it can be difficult. For sure. But again, it's going to be it has to be something that you really want.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, can you face off against the best players you can face off against? And be okay with being yourself.
And lose with dignity knowing that you actually did fight as hard as you could.
Yes.
You did actually play as best as you could. And above all, can you glorify God? Again, in everything you do. Which again, baseball players are the ones that I see the most often glorifying God. Even if it is just a habit, it's still done after a home run.
This is true.
I don't as often hear football players talk about it. Or mention their faith or give their faith credit for a victory. I know Washington's quarterback just had an insanely good season last year, and he gave all of the credit to God for that.
I feel like Mahomes has done that too.
Mahomes has occasionally. I know Peyton Manning did that a lot.
He did, okay.
Drew Brees did.
I'm still pissed at the Saints. But yeah,
it's not one team's fault that no Minnesota team has made it past the playoffs in 40 years. It's the fault of every team you've ever played in the playoffs in the last 40 years.
All I'm going to say is I've suffered enough.
Better.
But no, you're right.
But
like,
the
NFL players might be more notable in terms of doing it by name just because they're going to have a mic in front of them more often. And they're using their platform for that. That's amazing. But if I were picking the sport where the players had the highest likelihood of doing it, I might agree with the baseball pick. That just makes sense to me.
It's it also has to do with the disproportionate number of Catholic Hispanics that are playing baseball.
There was that. But that seems like a good place to end. So, everyone, go forth and glorify God in all that you do. Fight well and compete well.